Well, hello, everyone. I'm Gary Barnes, Gary Barnes International. And I know it's Cyber Monday, but this is not about business. This is about an anniversary of sorts that I am celebrating. And I wanted to bring it to you because there's a couple of thoughts that I've had around the anniversary. 37 years ago, today, I was given the prognosis from a neurologist that I would be dead or in a wheelchair within 10 years. That was in 1988. And I didn't like that prognosis very well. And I was a little bit ornery, but what I was diagnosed with was multiple sclerosis. At that moment, I was numb from the neck down. I had no feelings in my hands. I lost the ability to write. And if I couldn't see my feet, I would trip over things that were not there. So I had to learn how to adjust. And through that experience, I, number one, never owned the diagnosis. I have never said I have. And on the other side is I knew that I had to do something different because in 1988, literally, there was only steroids that they offered me as a way to maybe mask the symptoms just a little bit. And I knew that I played ball and I didn't want the end result of taking steroids. So I developed one of the very first, in my mind, visualizations and a visualization where a beaver showed up and started patching up the myelin sheath, which is the covering around the nerves that dissolves for some reason with the illness. And I created a whole visualization of three ships of beavers working around the clock. I built schools and shopping centers and all kinds of things for them. But I stated that alternative thought pattern for 2 to 2.5 hours a night for up to, it took about 6 months before I started getting any kind of feeling back at all. All the while, I was still numb from the neck down. And the principle that I learned from that is that even though the external circumstances, the things that we're dealing with, don't change on a dime. It didn't miraculously, all of a sudden I could have all of the feeling back. But over a period of time, I started to get some back, and I still have no feelings in my fingers. They're like stone hands. I have to use a tool to do my buttons. One of my clients had given me a tool, which I'm very thankful for. But, I started looking for the workarounds. I When this happened, I was right in the middle of my financial planning career. I owned a financial planning firm, and I didn't tell anybody about it because nobody wants to give you money if they think a doctor thinks that you're going to be dead in just a few years. And so I really ignored it and just kept building from the little bit of improvements that I had. When I sold the practice, people kept saying, well, tell the story, write a book, whatever. And in my mind, I had not done anything special, and I still don't. Really, what I did is I gave myself a choice, a chance, an opportunity for me to be able to have an outcome that was different from what the doctor had, given me the prognosis for. And so when I did that, I actually did write the book, and it now has gone around the world. And the thing is that I learned something in writing that first book, and now I'm credited with 10. But in that first book, I realized that I was the subject, but I was not the message. And so, in learning that for myself, I started looking around. And the first book, and by the way, this is Big Buddy Beaver, and Big Buddy Beaver goes with me on talks, and he's become a personal mascot of my brand. But the book itself was not written as a multiple sclerosis book. I wrote it as an adversity book, which is the story beyond the story. So I am the subject of going through this experience, but the message of the book is how to really move through adversity in any circumstance. Because, there's nothing that at times that we can do about certain things. things will happen that we cannot fix. And in fact, I don't say what I did will work 100% for anyone else. What I do say, this is my story. And it is one of the things that today, many of the people that have uh, actually passed on now, Annette Funicello, Richard Pryor, have both come out before they did pass away and said visualization actually extended their lives as well. And so the thing that I have been looking for is how to allow people, including myself, to tell more stories so that people can learn from the message for them, not and using us as a subject line. So it is not about look at me, how great I am and how special I am. Because for those of you that know me, I call myself the kid next door, which in my mind means that anything I have done, you can do. You know, I've been told since then, I told her 3 times that people thought I was going to go ahead and leave this world. And I have overcome all three. But last March, I actually was sitting here at my desk, and what I call the nudge came to me and said, write another book. And I said, no, there's no way. I have 9 books. I'm totally done. I'm a #1 Amazon International best-selling author. I've done all the things. So I don't need to do it. Writing is, I'm a speaker that has had to become a writer. And so, but the nudge came to me 4 days in a row, and I said no all 4 days. On the 5th day, though, the nudge came back to me and said, write another book, and here's the title. And the book's name is Overcoming You. And I thought, oh, wow, I thought this was a book that I'm going to be writing for Overcoming You, and it's about messages to everyone else. What I realized is that it was also a book I was writing for me, that I still had some work to do going through this process of overcoming myself. And so allowing those obstacles to become opportunities, and those opportunities, if applied, become realities. And so, on that note, I had spoken to my person that does all of my back end work for the writing, and she got so excited that she said this would great be a great collaboration book. And I went, "Who in the world would want to be in a book with me?" Well, it turns out there was a number of people that did, and Overcoming You came out last September and went #1. You know, the amazing thing is, this is not the book that was supposed to come out first. My individual book is, and it will be coming out in a few months, and I will be standing in the O, inviting you to come with me. But this is a collaboration book that ended up being very special because it's allowing people to tell their story. And I have a request here in a second to, that I would love to hear your story, your examples, your pivot points of how you got from point A to point Z, whatever it may be, because I believe everybody has a story that would benefit someone else. In fact, my stories that I tell on stage, my sons have come to hear me speak because they say I'm telling stories that they have never heard, that I thought that I had shared with them many, many years ago. But you know what, the first book that came out with Overcoming You, what it actually evolved into was sort of a chicken soup type of book, a book of collaborative writers that allowed people to peek into their world to see where they had been, what they went through, and how they came out of it. And so the inspiration, the motivation that comes out of a book like this is really tremendous. And because it's in print, it will be there forever. And so here's my ask. #1, if you have a story, I would love to just hear it. You can email it to me at Gary@GaryBarnesInternational.com. I really read all of my own emails. I don't have someone that goes through them first. I really love hearing the story behind the story. And the second ask is that if you know of anybody that might like to have their story published and to use it in their business, maybe it'd be just for their family, but to get their story out there in a meaningful way that could impact others, for many, many years to come. I would love the introduction. And again, you can just, connect with me at Gary at GaryBarnesInternational.com. But what I really encourage each and every one of you to do is your family really for I have not met a family yet that does not want to know the story behind the story, where you came from. Would you please write it down? Would you share it with your family? If you have children or grandchildren, share it with them and allow them to peek in to the world that you came from that is totally different now from what they're experiencing. And it would give them a peek into who you are and how you become and overcame you, but became you. And so, with that, thank you for celebrating just for a couple of minutes my 37th anniversary of the diagnosis of what the doctor thought my future would hold. And as I tell people, I'm ornery. I'm still here, still kicking. And this is who I am, not what I do. So, with that, have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Thanks.